if you are too young or you haven't had a family like this, why would you know stuff like this? You
Mhm.
may have seen like an overly angry, narcissistic abuse life coach screaming about stuff like this on the internet.
So you think that this is finally the end with the narcissist? Ever notice how some narcissists have the weirdest habits? Let's dive into 20 narcissistic strange behaviors that you might not realize are red flags.
All right, want some more older sister advice? Here's how to spot a covert narcissist. These people are your friends, your parents, your partners, your first date. They can be anyone and anywhere.
But
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about it in like a rooted in reality and not quite so wild sort of way.
Mhm.
Um, because I was the scapegoat in my family and she is golden child in her family, so we have all the qualifications. If you think that we're wrong about this, that's fine, but you're probably wrong.
I will say our one thing is we're both from families of two children. So we don't know what
Yes.
it's like with larger families, but we do know when it's very black and white and it's like one kid's the golden child, one kid's the scapegoat. We definitely have our handle on that.
And I've seen enough of like friends online or like just seen people like in like interviews and things like that talking about bigger families to understand some of the other dynamics in bigger families. But
Mhm.
essentially just to start it off, just like to give like definitions, like the scapegoat role is best described to me as like somebody in the family that is like somehow different from everybody else. It's not like a discernible thing, really. It's not like something that you could ever really like point at. It's just like something about you is somehow different from everyone. Whether it's like you're like there's just it depends on really like the family that of why you are that role. But essentially a lot of like dysfunctional abusive families that are, you know, the gods and Percy Jackson are like a giant abusive family, is that there isn't like emotional like regulation. Like the gods don't have any of that. And so the way that they do that is by taking things out on their children and other people. And so that happens in real life too, where the scapegoats are kind of the one that when their parents are upset about something, they take out their like anger at themselves or other people in their life on them because they've just kind of ended up in that role that it they feel better after they take out their anger on that child, and they don't think about like how it feels for that child when that kind of stuff is happening. And
Yeah.
so there's just, and to talk about the other side, like the golden child is kind of the role that is kind of the, like I saw it described online as like the perfectionist that like thinks that if they do everything perfectly that everything will be fine, that all the problems in the family will like go away or everyone will somehow get along. And like the as a scapegoat you feel that sort of a thing too, like if I just let everybody yell at me then eventually they'll stop. Even if it's hard on me, who cares? Because they're all just like letting it out on me and they're not arguing with each other anymore. But so like it's very like opposite roles like that, but that's kind of what the golden child is. And when you look at Percy Jackson, it's pretty obvious to me that Percy is a definite scapegoat, and there's multiple ones, but I feel like the best way to kind of set up that like dynamic is by Percy and Luke.
Worked with Ares to plan it on me. So when the shoes you gave me pulled me down into Tartarus, the bolt would be delivered right to Kronos.
I didn't think you give him to Grover to wear.
Like legitimately that dynamic is the perfect way to describe that situation, where Percy is like somehow different from everybody else. He's always been different from the people in his life for one reason or another. He's never fit in anywhere. He's never really felt like he's had real friends. Like Grover in the books is his longest friend and he's only known him for one school year. And he's like surprised that he has a like he's surprised that Grover is still his friend. And he's not at all used to that. And so when he gets to camping, he's alone. Like Luke is somebody that he trusts as somebody that like he talked to when he was scared and like helped him feel like he belonged and was helping him figure out this world and was like giving him advice and doing all these things that you would want like you would hope that somebody would do that made him feel like he belonged, only to figure out that that whole time he was actually doing all of that so that he could kill him.
Yeah.
And it's like an over dramatized version of that like scapegoat golden child dynamic where you like as the scapegoat you want to make the golden child happy and you like don't think about that. You just think like, oh, maybe we're finally figuring things out, because as the scapegoat you're always like hoping that somebody else will realize what's going on. And so when that happens you're like, oh, maybe they're finally like getting it. Oh my god. And you just are left like, oh, how could that possibly happen? And like Percy at the end of the TV show is a good depiction of that, because Walker does such a good job acting that out where he was like looking like he was about to cry and things like that in that scene, because that is how devastating that scene is. Like Luke is somebody that he thought he could trust. He was another like adult man in his life that he thought he could trust after Gabe just beat him for 6 years and his dad was never around. And that just like ended like that, where he found out that that guy actually doesn't like him and doesn't want like something about him and doesn't want anything to do with him. And like Luke is sad in that scene because he thinks that Percy betrayed him by not wanting to join him. But like Luke at camp is like everyone's best friend. And I think the way to describe that dynamic really well is that Luke is everyone's best friend at camp. Everyone loves him. Everyone looks up to him. Everyone wants to be him one day. And Percy always feels like he's trying to like catch up to that, but he could never like ever honestly ever really fully get there. There's like always something about him that's different from what people want him to be. And even after they find out that Luke tried to kill him, they compare him to Luke a lot. And so it's like Luke somehow like effortlessly to Percy was able to like fit in with everybody. And the entire reason why his plan almost works is because he had those like relationships with all of these people. And like Percy is always trying to do that with all of the other kids at camp, but he could never completely get there. And it's that whole thing of like, how could you give up all of these people who like love you so much for this crazy destruction path, when I can never get that in the first place.
I am your friend, Percy. None of this was meant to betray you. The gods are my enemy. You. I'm here to recruit.
Luke's like a great example of a golden child lashing out. I mean, the other example that I give a lot is Rory when she stole the boat in Gilmore Girls. But it's very much a like, I did everything I was supposed to do. I've been perfect, and things didn't go the way I want. So what do I do now? And you freak out and you do something drastic. Except for Luke, it never ends. Like he just never. He never snaps out of it. Usually there is a snap out of it moment, even if the golden child was really, really bad at admitting that they snapped out of it. And like, they will double down before they will be like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that.
They said like Luke is like a hero that you would read about in like the Greek myths that like doesn't care who they hurt and what they do as long as they like get the job done sort of thing. And I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's why I never think that he's a hero, because I don't think any of those people are heroes. And I was like, he's exactly that person. I'm like, that's why he's the hero of the prophecy. And Percy is not. Because like Percy has to be somebody that would be willing at like, I know you don't remember The Last Olympian too much, but like when they get to the very, very end, like Percy has to give him the knife that he stabs himself with, like the dagger. And it's somebody who has to trust him enough that they could give him that and not be afraid that he's going to turn it on them. And like Percy does something like that in every single book with somebody else, like giving them like that when people are telling them, what are you doing? Like, why are you trusting that person? And so he would be somebody who would give that to him and trust that Luke isn't going to attack them again and instead just like take himself out, which is what he does. I don't think that Thalia or Nico would ever trust Luke enough to even give him like that chance. But that's exactly who they are. Like like Percy is the hero for like the here and now about everyone else. Luke is like the person that is for like the god. So the other type of golden child, still with like Percy, but is Percy and Thalia.
Percy's working his way up the food chain at Camp Half-Blood, like from 1 and 2, and then he gets like near the top, and then Thalia shows up and immediately like bumps him way back down. You know, and I think that's going to be interesting to shoot. And like that scene where she does like the snap,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Oh, Chiron didn't teach you that?" And he's like, "Wait, am I like, are you more important than me?"
That's like the very frustrating kind of like golden child scapegoat thing where I've seen people talk about this recently. Our mutual Sky was talking about it, how Chiron teaches Thalia how to like manipulate the mist, and he never taught Percy that. And it's that I think is the best example of how somebody being like the golden child just like makes them get things from people in a way that they haven't even done anything.
Yeah.
That people just like subconsciously find themselves falling into those roles. And so for that, it's like, because Thalia is the child of Zeus,
Yeah.
it's literally just because of that. She is the child of Zeus, and so she gets like this respect from every single god they ever run into, and from Chiron and everyone else. And she hasn't done anything to actually show that she like is deserving of that respect. It's like the opposite. Like Titan's Curse is literally a story where they're out there on the road in these situations where she needs to like, think fast, and she doesn't. Like Percy like bails her out literally the entire book.
Yes.
Like he's the one that comes up with the Nemean lion thing. He's the one that comes up with the thing about the robot. He's the one that comes up with how to handle what was going on at the dam. He's the one that handles everything with like calling Dionysus when she's about to like kill Bessie. He's the one that holds up the sky. Like he does everything. And at the end of the book, she's like, I'm joining the hunters because I suck at these and I don't want to do these anymore. And so like she realizes it for herself, like I'm not good at this, but it's that infuriating thing that entire book Percy's doing all of that stuff and helping, and he's the one that is making this quest work and making it continue on. But every single god they run into for that entire book gives her the respect and talks to her like she's the leader. She's not the leader. She isn't doing anything. But they just keep like when Percy is like begging Dionysus to come save them, and then he has to sit there and watch Dionysus just make somebody go like lose their mind in a really scary way. Dionysus says something to Percy, basically like very dismissive. I forget what it is, but he's basically like, get away from me. And then he looks at Thalia and is like, I hope you learned your lesson about power and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, are you talking to her like she's a person? Are you like giving her respect? You're calling her by her actual name? You're like speaking to her like she's like an equal almost with you. But with Percy, it's like, I hope you fall off this skyscraper so that I can listen to you die. And I'm like angry at you and literally had you begging on the floor before I would come and save your life, because I decided that it would be too messy to explain to your dad if I let you just die. And like he's like, in that scene, Percy's literally begging him to come save them, and he doesn't even give him even like 0.25% of respect. And it's just that sort of a thing happens, and you're just watching it, and you're like, even the kids at camp do it, and it's almost like they're like helpless to it. They just find themselves doing it because she's like part of like the camp kind of history with her dying and protecting them, and because she is a Zeus child. It's literally just because she's a Zeus child. And she gets all the respect and then leaves him to deal with the prophecy at the end. And it's like, yeah, Percy deserves to be really angry at her, and the fact that he's not isn't because he's like, a rational person. It's because he doesn't think that he matters. But like that entire book, he's dealing with all this stuff from her, and she gives him attitude constantly. And he's right the whole time. Everyone else like defers to her and not to him. only for her to leave them all behind and for him to be the one to save everybody. And he just has to deal with that. And
Yeah.
she just gets to leave and doesn't have to deal with any of those responsibilities. Like, even if it is the right thing to do,
Hmm.
I think, at least in my experience as a scapegoat, that's like one of the things I remember feeling is like, even if this is the right thing for me to be doing right now, like I'm the one that should be doing this, I'm still pissed off that it has to be me. I'm still mad that I'm the one that has to do it, and because I wish that somebody else could have. And it's like that sort of a thing of even if Percy is the right one to do the prophecy, because he's the most empathetic kid that wants everybody to have good things. He's for like the community. He's not for like his own power. He's like the one person at camp that would turn down the gods offering him like endless power, when I don't think anyone else would necessarily do the same thing. Um, but like he is the right person for it, but it's still really hard that he goes through all of that stuff with her in that book, and then she gets to just join the hunters, be immortal forever, and not have to deal with any of the responsibility anymore after everyone else was like expect like for a lot of that book he's thinking like maybe I'm going to get a break. Like maybe I'm not going to have to die when I'm 16. Maybe somebody else will deal with like the prophecy. Maybe somebody else will do it better than me. And then at the end of the book it's like never mind.
It's my prophecy. Yeah. Talia is, I need to start saying her name Dahlia because I know the show is going to. Dahlia is more the brand of golden child I would say that I am, where it's like, they're treated like they're better, but like why? Is it actually a real reason or is it something else? With me, it could be a combo of things. It could be that my brother is more neurodivergent presenting. I wouldn't say I'm not neurodivergent, but I would say that I'm better at masking in front of people. It could be that I'm a girl. It could be that I have lighter skin. And I know that some of you guys may not know this because I am very white presenting, but I am half Mexican and a quarter Japanese, and my brother has dark, dark skin. So when it comes to that, I always wonder if colorism is in play, even though my mom is also dark skinned, but she was treated like a certain way for being dark skinned. So, there's so many things it could be. I wouldn't say any of us is smarter than the other, any of us is better than the other, any of that. But yet, for some reason, anytime I've had a car breakdown, I've had a parent like, here, take my hand-me-down car. My brother has had to buy his own cars. I did not pay for my college and I went to a private university. My brother only got an AA degree from community college and paid for the entire thing himself. Like, I can't tell you why these things are this way, but for some reason, like, Christmas is another good example. I think I told you that this happened. My TV broke and me and Jake were just dealing with it. We were like, okay, we got devices. Everybody here, William has an iPad. We have phones. We're good. We don't necessarily need a TV. Like, yeah, we can't all watch TV together, but that's okay. We can deal until we get paid. My dad heard that and immediately bought a TV. And I was like talking to my brother about it. I was like, he wouldn't do this for you, would he? And he was like, no. He'd be like, why don't you spend some of that money I know you're saving?
It's not even that they wouldn't do that for me, it's that I wouldn't even like consider that an option.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider it an option to like just expect them to help me with something like that. It's like if I can't get it, I'm not gonna get it. Like my car broke 5 years ago, and in 2020, in like July of 2020, my car broke, and I haven't had one since then. And I haven't even tried to buy a new one because I know that I can't afford it, and like that's the end of it. And it's like that kind of a stuff that happens where it's just weird to watch. Like a good example with like Thalia and Percy describing that dynamic is the capture the flag fight. That one of the things that happens with golden children and scapegoats that's hard too is that golden children a lot of times will like defend the whoever the adult or whoever is as like a way thinking that that's the way to like fix everything in a way is to like align themselves with that person instead of with like their siblings and things like that. And so that happens in Titan's Curse, like when they get back from camp and Dionysus doesn't want to go after Annabeth, and Percy obviously is really upset by that. she's saying to him like afterwards, like, oh, Ares already hates you. Do you want to have another god hate you too? And it's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you taking Dionysus's side? Like, telling Percy, she really tells Percy in that scene to like stop being so upset. And it's like his best friend just is kidnapped and he's having dreams about her being tortured by the dude that you think is a great friend of yours still. And you're telling him that he's too upset and to calm down basically. And I was just like, and then like during the capture the flag fight, before it even starts, she's like pinging him with like electricity because she doesn't know how to regulate her own emotions. And she's so mad about the idea that he could also be captain because she needs to have control of everything. And her plan is the suckiest plan on earth. It's literally just, I'm the hero.
Yeah.
That's her entire plan. Is just she does everything. Percy, for some godforsaken reason, is supposed to just stand there by the flag and do nothing, even though he's Percy. Like has all of these powers and can
water or something.
yeah, and can help so much. And they're like, oh, just stand there in the back with Charlie and baby little Nico, who's just back there because he can't do anything else because he's 10. And, and it's just, oh, why? And then starts an entire fight with him because they lost. And it's like, they lost because your plan sucks. Your plan is literally everyone stand back and just watch me be the amazing hero that I am. And then that doesn't work out because real life isn't actually an action movie like that. And so when it blows up in her face, she blames him for it. And when they start fighting, I always think that it's like shows that Chiron is like perceptive in this way. Because when they start fighting, he's asking Percy, like, please, like, calm down. Like, this isn't a good idea. He's telling like Thalia to stop too, but it's like he knows that Thalia isn't going to listen to him. And so he's like trying to like reason with Percy because he knows that Percy is the one that will stop. And like Percy is the one that usually will stop. And at that point is just so sick of this shit that he's just especially when she's like, oh, I did it on accident, he's like, oh, did you really? Well, I'm gonna throw water on you on accident. And even with that situation, it's like you electrocuted him where his clothes were burning. All he did was throw water on you. That's not even the same thing. He didn't actually, like, you just got wet. Like, you're not harmed in any way. It's not like your skin is like, you can like smell like burning coming off of your clothes like it was with him. So even when he did fight back, he wasn't really doing it the same way because it wasn't actually hurting her. It was just, it's like when you just get fed up and just like push somebody over because you're like tired of them. But just the fact that during that fight, like Chiron was like, I know that Thalia's not going to listen to me, but Percy is the more like reasonable one. That's how those dynamics always are. You're the one that's like never allowed to just be mad.
Yeah.
And then when you finally do get mad, everybody's terrified. Because you're never that mad. And they're like, oh my God, what do we do now?
Yeah. Well, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with the dynamic between Talia and Percy, because I don't remember this as much in the books going forward. But, like, when the Golden Child does step out of the way, you know, it's kind of an interesting thing that happens because they have to focus on the scapegoat. It's very crazy how much they have to focus on the scapegoat once you step away. It's currently what my situation is. So I'm no contact with mom. My dad, I wouldn't call it low contact on purpose, but like we don't talk often. And so, you know, they have to focus on my brother at this point. And he's getting more attention. I see him post stories with my mom going to wineries and stuff. That would not have been happening as much if I was still in contact with my mom. She'd probably try to spend every single weekend here with William, you know? So it's like part of me almost stays away longer because I want him to finally have that moment. And it's hard to stay away because they're trying to do the same shit to lure me back. They're trying to do the same shit of like, let me take care of you. Let me do everything for you. And it's really tempting as a former golden child to be like, please, I don't want to be an adult anymore. Can I not? But at some point you have to. And like, I know that this is where a lot of people people like stop healing on the golden child reality, because like some people realize it and never get further than that, and it's because the benefits outweigh the risks of leaving.
Yeah, and honestly, Thalia and Percy is a good one of that too. That she, one of the things that happens, I feel with, in happens in both roles, but just differently, is like a lack of like skills and like life skills. Like when you're a scapegoat, you have a lack of life skills because you dissociate out of like survival. And so you don't know a lot of things just because there's so many things happening that you just didn't know them. Like Percy didn't have friends for longer than a year of his life until he was like 13. Um, because he was constantly moving to all these different schools and dealing with all of these situations. It wasn't until he met Paul when he was like 16, 15, 16, something like that, that he even had like a male figure in his life that didn't immediately betray him, or try to kill him.
Or something, yeah.
Gail, Gail, Gabe and Luke both did that. Poseidon just like ignores him aggressively, so, and but either way, like that's a lot of stuff that he was like lacking. He doesn't really know how to like talk to people or make friends or figure these things out in his life because he's never had the time or like the patience or anything, not even patience, just the opportunity to do that, which is like more of what I had, is that I generally don't remember a lot of stuff, and so I don't know a lot of stuff like that. But with like golden children, it's like you could do that stuff, but you could just make other people do it for you. And so you get used to other people doing things for you, and so you don't actually know how to do things yourself. And that is like Thalia in Titan's Curse to a T. Like she is used to just, I'm Zeus's child. I Everyone likes me because of that. Everyone respects me because of that. And then when she's on the quest, nobody cares about that. Like the monsters and Atlas and all, and Luke even at a certain point, and all these people, they don't care about that anymore. And so she's expected to like be able to like back up kind of the ways that people talk about her, and she can't do it. And so she just is like, I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna go and like join the hunters, because at least when I'm with the hunters, I don't have to like deal with this. And it's the other way of that too, is like, can you imagine like what people would have done if Percy was like, I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna go. I don't want
Like,
to.
where are you going? There's a prophecy, child.
And like we referenced the Calypso stuff already in Battle of the Labyrinth last week, but genuinely, Hephaestus shows up on Calypso's island and is like, "Are you gonna come back or not?" Because, like, Percy is literally the only like hope that they have at that point. Like, you know how screwed they would have been if Percy was like, "No, I don't want to do the prophecy anymore," because then they would have had to wait for Nico, and he already was really angry at everybody. He would not have been like the best person to be in that sort of a position either. And so even if he wasn't like a 12-year-old, even when he was older, you never know. And so like Percy was literally the only shot they had at the prophecy going well for them. And so he like showed up at Calypso's island to be like, "Are you coming back or what are you doing?" And he was like, what do you yeah, I'm coming. What are you talking about?" Because he didn't know what was going on. But like that's how they treated him. Like when he came back, like Chiron is like, "Oh, I'm glad that you changed your mind." And like people are giving him attitude when he comes back. When he was gone for 2 weeks because he almost died and he had no idea what was going on that entire time, and nobody just talks to him to figure out that he didn't know that he could come back that entire time. They could have just talked to him about that and they would have found that out. But nobody does that because they're just like have this idea about him, and they're like, "Oh, he just like wanted to run away from his responsibilities," and is like, name one time in this child's entire lifespan that he has ever done that. Like never once has he ever done that, but they just like jump to that because there's just like something about him being the Poseidon kid that makes people feel like he would be he would be the one to do that, even though that's not what he's like at all. And it's like that sort of a thing that Thalia can join the hunters and everybody celebrates it. And it's like, "Oh, that's a good decision for her. I'm so glad that Thalia did that." And it's like, "Oh, that's so nice for her that she gets to do something like that and make a decision for herself and put herself first. She can do that. Nobody else can. At least he can't do that." at all. Um, the other the other like scapegoat golden child thing I have to mention is or just scapegoat is Zoe
Mhm.
because I love her so much.
Yeah.
I love Zoe so much. I like cry every time I like the entire time. It's one thing that is funny is I'll keep like reposting the videos that we did about Titan's Curse when we read it as like things come out about season 3. But one of the things I think is funny, like looking back at those episodes we did on that book, is that it's literally me just like trying not to cry whenever you would mention something about her because, or like mention anything to do with her because I was just thinking the entire time. Like, I remember you went on this whole rant about like, why are they talking about the constellations? And I was like, I'm gonna die. And I just like said nothing that whole time because I'm like, I can't say anything. But just that entire book, every time I'm like staring off at nothing, it's usually because I'm thinking about how Zoe knows that entire book that her dad is going to kill her at the end. And she's doing all of this stuff anyway. Even though she knows that, she doesn't try to like get away from him. She just knows that he's going to find her and he's going to kill her. And she's like accepted. As
Mhm.
soon as she hears the prophecy that says that a parent is going to kill their child, she knows it's her.
Like literally
And
keeps going even after she gets attacked by Ladon. Like,
yeah, and she just like deals with it and doesn't say anything. And it's just like, yeah, this is just going to be me. And I made a video about this the other day, but the point I always make with the TV show in general is that
mhm.
I feel like a lot of TV shows say things like, oh, we can't do a TV show that has like this amount of diversity or these
Mhm.
like kind of emotional sort of storylines like children being abused in varying ways because it's too like reactive and networks will never air it and it's like this show proves that you're all liars.
Mhm.
And basically what I said was in that video I was talking about Zoe, I was like she's a severe trauma abuse survivor because her dad wants to kill her and she knows that he's going to. Like she's been hiding out with the hunters for thousands of years to hide from him. Like
Yeah.
that's why she joined them was just to get away from him and have and be able to be immortal where she would be more protected so that he couldn't do that to her. And she knows that it's finally over. While she's in this book, she knows it's over and he's gonna when they run into him, he's gonna kill her, but she's like, I'm just gonna do what I can to try to protect him from everybody, protect everyone else from him, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and so whenever I think about Zoe, I'm like, I love her so much and I want to cry thinking about her. But then I also remember that I'm going to have to see somebody like Atlas on screen and that might actually kill me. Like, if they're actually really good at being scary, which I'm sure they will be, that will be very hard for me because Zoe is like one of the only characters I can think of, honestly, that is a severe child abuse like person, like survivor person on screen. And in this, and she's a very empathetic character. You really like her. But like her just being in this at all, like her whole story of like knowing that her dad is going to kill her, that is not like I don't have to pretend to know what that feels like. I
Yeah.
know exactly what that feels like. It, that's just my life. And so, like, I was somehow able to get my dad not to do that to me. I'm honestly not even sure how I did that, like, or how I got him not to do that. It's honestly a miracle, but he didn't somehow. But I know exactly what that's like to always be afraid of that person. And knowing like I feel like it's hard for people to fully like grasp that haven't had people like that, and I understand that most people don't, and I'm glad honestly that most people don't, but it's like a different level when you know that that they would kill you and they actually would. And
Yeah.
like my dad actually would have. Like I'm serious. Like there were many times that I thought he was going to and I was mad at him that he didn't because then it would have been over. And I was pissed at him that he didn't do that to me. I was like just do it and get it over with. But he honestly thought it was more fun, I think, to like make me think that it would be over soon and then like back off right at like the last second. But that is stuff that he actually does do. That is like why I say that he was torturous, because that is basically torture. He was like torturing me with that. And that's the kind of stuff that Zoe's dad is doing. And so that's part of why I get aggravated when people are like, oh, Greek mythology is always bad, or like, or whatever. And it's like, I don't have to pretend about this. This is just like my life. Like, I don't have to like imagine what it would be like. That is just my life. And so it's going to be really, really great for severe trauma survivors to see somebody like her on screen for an entire season, and to know that about her, even if they don't reveal it until the end, which they likely won't, like the book, and then makes everyone cry. But still, like, we never get representation like that. Most of the time, if we do, it's because somebody is like a serial killer, and that's like the way that they like explain their tragic backstory. It's explain why they want to kill everybody. It's not like seen in like this sort of a light. Like Zoe is a very caring, understanding person. She doesn't like Percy, but it's like if you watch our old episodes, you hear me constantly say like Zoe is really aggravating me right now, but I understand why she feels this way about Percy, and I just like stopped talking because I couldn't tell her what was going on, because it's like, yeah, her dad is an abusive monster, so I understand more than anyone else why she doesn't want to like men, and why she doesn't want to trust men, especially heroes, after like especially how Hercules treated her.
Yeah.
And like why she wouldn't want to trust somebody like Percy, but then she realizes that he's a good person and is like, yeah, you're a really nice person. And like Percy and her, the discussion that I still like, I'll open up my book and find it sometimes and reread it and just laugh, is like after Bianca dies. And this is like just a funny like golden child scapegoat moment, is like Thalia is with Zoe, and they get out of the back of the truck after Percy says his suicidal ideation out loud, and Grover tells him, don't say that, I could never like survive if you were dead, please never say that again. And he's like, okay, sorry. And then they get out of the truck and Thalia is like, you need to go talk to Zoe because she's depressed and I don't know how to talk to people with feelings. And that's basically what she says. And then Percy goes to talk to Zoe, and it's literally two scapegoats being like, I'm more responsible. And then, no, I'm more responsible. No, they're literally like arguing with each other about who's more responsible for the dead child. And neither one of them will admit that the other one could be more responsible than they are. They're like, no, I'm actually the worst. You just think it's you. And I'm like, I read that conversation, just laugh sometimes. 'Cause I'm like, yeah, that's what we sound like when we talk to each other. It's just, and Thalia just being like, I can't deal with her being depressed, you fix it. It's just, that's like, my sister would literally come up to me, even in like recent years, but it's not really quite this way anymore. But before I like went no contact with my mom for many years, I kind of made everybody like change how they talk to each other somehow. Before all that happened, when my mom would be upset about something, she would be like, Mom is being really weird, go talk to her and fix it. Like, not even exaggerating, that's like what she would say. And so I'm like, that's literally what Thalia is doing. And I like cracked up laughing. Even though it was like a really sad part of the book, I was just like, oh my God. Of course this is happening this way.